My name is Steve Neill. My first memory of consciousness was at age 3, standing on a sidewalk on 47th Avenue in San Francisco. It was 1955. I looked down at my little body and back up at the sky, marveled by my own experience of life. I knew I was different. In 1958, at age 6, I woke up one night to a deafening silence and spotlights searching my room. This experience set me on a path of life unlike the average child. These experiences with the paranormal, UFOs, and more continued to this day. In 1987, my late wife brought me Whitley Strieber's Communion, which for me connected all the dots. I realized that I was not alone with this experience. This led to using my artistic skills to make art and film about this life experience. In 1994, I met and became friends with Whitley Strieber. I later met Yvonne Smith, Roger Lear, and many other people in the community, which led to television programs, magazines, and more. My work was suddenly everywhere, and I worked for many popular TV series during that time. I worked on many movies from Star Trek to Ghostbusters. But all this nearly ended my film career. It wouldn't be long before I was stalked, warned, and threatened by the intelligence community. One day, I got a call from the film studios I worked for. They had been visited by agents that told the producers it wasn't in their best interest to continue working with me because I was in trouble with the law. Under the threat of being left by my late wife, I quit the UFO community in 2000. It would not be until 2017 I would make my first film on this subject and burst back into the scene. It was called But Something Is There, and it told much of my life story and experiences. In 2023, Mary Catrapalia had the concept of making a channel that would allow people that have these experiences to come forward in safety and respect. This is something often afforded by mainstream media. They tell their stories directly to you, without a host or a narrator guiding the narrative. We are breaking the silence. There. So welcome to chatting with Steve Neill here, the day before the holiday tomorrow, such as it is. I can only assume that things are so quiet tonight because of that holiday, among other things. But I didn't really make up, let me move this around a bit, didn't really make up any list as Mary wanted me to do. to things to talk about. Although, whatever happened to me last Thursday night, I still have not been able to recall. It's very frustrating. Um, I can tell you it left me with a feeling of, I don't want to use the expression dread, but concern may be more like it. Whatever it is that happened, they didn't want me to remember. I did find a very curious puncture uh, back here, which is now healed up pretty well. It's a little sore under there still. But to be honest, it felt like somebody stuck a needle through there. Um, I don't know. But I showed it to Mary. Nothing's come through. Really nothing other than a feeling of concern. Whatever it was not supposed to be remembered until it's time to remember it. So I have talked about Deborah Cobble, and soon I'll start working on her show. It's going to be a long one. She talked for a long time, and it's not with me interviewing her. It's with her talking to the camera, and I'm going to bring to life the things that happen. Now, if you're not familiar with Deborah Cobble, then you probably should be if you're interested in this subject, because in 1983, she had an astounding experience with her whole family, multiple witnesses, physical evidence, and it was turned into a two-part TV series called The Intruders. You may have heard of it. Not only that, there was a book first written by Bud Hopkins by the same name, and she worked with Bud very closely. I highly recommend her book because I knew about the case, I knew about her, but I didn't read her book. And her new version of the book, which has been upgraded since that time, is really quite moving. Quite moving. Um, I think you'll learn a lot from it. I think you'll learn a lot from what she has to say. This Friday, tomorrow, another day in the week. Uh, on Friday, yes. You won't want to miss the fireworks in our show in conversation with James Lowe. Now, if you don't know who James Lowe is, you ought to look him up because he's done a lot of work in this field. Being a former lawyer, working for the government, he has been trying to bridge the gap between the people in Washington who are basically completely unknowledgeable of anything that has to do with the subject matter or UFOs. I mean, there are a few, and I'm very grateful that they've taken this very seriously. But the bottom line is, whatever the government or the different agencies and people are, organizations are that are within our field, UFO investigators, if they're trying to get full disclosure, they're not going to get it. Why? Because the visitors are in control. And it'll get disclosed when they want it to get disclosed and not a moment sooner. If anybody tries to do anything like that, it's not going to make it. Kind of like a lot of the people in Washington, they're not going to make it the rate they're going. So, because there are real forces at work with real power, and this is how they want things done. What else? What else I'm not talking about? I will not do that to you. I will not say, well, I know something, but I can't share it with you. There are a few of us that do that, and if I know something, I'm going to share it with you. I am. I don't care. You have a right to know. And if I know it, it's because I was allowed to know it, and which means you're allowed to know it. And so, but still, looking back on Thursday, whatever happened, I can't tell you about because I don't know myself. All I can tell you is that currently, I still don't feel right. It's taken a while. I remember when I told Reverend Michael Carter about it, I said, this thing happened. It was the next day. And he says, well, take it easy, Steve, because when it happens to him, he says it can take 2, 3 days. Well, we've gone past that. We've got a full week. So, um, so we got Debbie coming along, and yes, CJ, who we met because of Earl Grey Anderson, and CJ was working with Earl Grey Anderson, and she's formed or is part of the local MUFON group here, and she is an experiencer. And so the more experiencers like Earl, who is an experiencer, we get involved in the MUFON down here in California. And really, California, we're kind of our own country. And we do things the way we want to do them, and people don't tell us how to do them. And that goes for MUFON too, evidently, because what's happening is that uh, they're taking people who say that they've seen the occupants of the craft they're so interested in, have been in contact with them, they had experiences with them, were have abducted with them, or taken with them, or whatever. And they're finally getting across, and CJ is definitely helping with that. But we next Friday we have an in conversation with CJ, and she spills her guts for the first time and tells about her experience. In fact, I was working on it today, recreating what she witnessed. Um, in particular, a UFO that she saw near her home in the desert where she lived on a ranch growing up. That was quite beautiful and iridescent, like an opal, but also within inside this sort of field of gas, you could also see this very metallic, smooth skin saucer shape. So I've been working on that. It's always a lot of fun to do. I enjoy it a lot, bringing this stuff to life, because I've always been so frustrated working in Hollywood. The only time that I really got to do what I wanted to do and do things accurately was for the UFO files. I don't know if you guys remember the UFO files, but they were on um, History Channel during the early 2000s, and I was doing the CGI for it. And the person I went to work for, Dwayne, what was his last name? Goodall? Dwayne Dahl, I think it was. He was the senior producer, filmmaker for that series, and he started off as a total skeptic. And as we progressed along, that changed rather quickly. But I did a lot of CGI effects using Lightwave for that, and the great thing about it was, like sightings too, before that, they allowed me to do what I wanted to do. They didn't tell me how to make the beings look, or the saucers or whatever. If the witness described it a certain way, they allowed me to do that. And they don't always do that in Hollywood, very rarely, as is self-evident. So that was great. And so being able to do these shows myself, and I don't have anybody breathing over my shoulder telling me what to do. I can do this stuff as accurately as possible. I talk very closely with the witness, and I say, what did it look like? What was the skin like? What was the metal look like? Describe the visitors, describe what it felt like to walk on the floor, what did the walls look like? I mean, and then I would say me, I create that stuff. Um, I'm really looking forward to doing Susie Henson when we do record her, because I'm taking one particular experience from her book, which there are many of in the book, and I'm bringing it to life. So I get to create the interiors, the beings she saw, and everything else. And it'll be the first time I believe that anyone's uh, reenacted Susie's experience. I've been painting more and more, and I'm really loving it. I mean, CGI is great, but there's something about paintings that really puts your soul into it. I'm pretty sure I shared this with many of you before, but I may not have. Not everybody's here's seen it. The more recent one, of course, is this one. Yes, the praying mantis that I saw. I really saw it. People say, well, how did you see it? Well, it was a dream. Well, then it was just a dream. I get that all the time. I generally remove those comments because they're counterproductive, uh, especially when I ask them back. So define a dream to me. What is a dream exactly? they, they disappear. They don't come back. They don't say anything. So heck with that. Take down their comment because they're not. You and I both know that there are experiences we have that get suppressed and then it comes out in the dreams. I mean, people that have been raped and been in terrible violent situations and their mind uh, covered it up to protect itself will start to dream about those things. It's not just with, you know, uh, being taken by visitors. Lots of other things happen. Traumatic childhood memories that have been suppressed, and people will dream about them. And then, how fair is that when someone comes along and say, "Well, that's just a dream"? You didn't really experience that. That's kind of cruel to tell people that. But I saw this guy, and I think I described before. I was in an amphitheater setting or auditorium, on obviously in not on Earth, or at least not in a human building. It didn't feel like that with many other human beings who were in a dazed state, and somehow I came out of it and was aware that this being was aware of it, and I looked over at it and it says, I know you can see me. I know you're looking at me, something along that lines. Um, and so quickly I did a drawing after I woke up, and then I turned that into a painting. And the painting was very spontaneous. It happened in a couple hours, and then I went back the next day and finished it off. So um, it's a decent sized canvas too. I'm sure this is something that everyone would like to have in their front living room. Just think how well you'd be entertaining your guests who know nothing about this. What's that? Well, you've just came to the Addams Family house. I'd love to put this on the wall here. We have some stuff on the wall here that is suggestive. So another painting I did was a remake. Even I do eat remakes of the famous case that happened in 1965 in France, and with the French farmer in the lavender field. And the picture's not quite that great. Mary just glazed it for me, and it's funny how photographs work. And this was taken with a good Sony A7. Where the sun is much more filled in person and kind of glowing more, but still you get the idea. I wanted to have that painting again, so I painted it again because the original painting is long gone somewhere out there. Alicia Davison, who was a prolific speaker and experiencer that had uh, experiences with the visitors and who was terrorized by black helicopters and black ops and people. I mean, one of the stories she told that was so amazing to me, and she told it to MUFON and other places that she would speak. Let me take this down. Thank you, Mary. She was in her house, and she lived up by where they shot the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers. What was the name of that place? It's up in the hills above Pasadena. I'm drawing a blank on it. Wonderful little town, and that's where they shot the original black and white uh, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. She sure picked a great place to live, huh? And in the middle of the night, a big helicopter comes and hovers over her street. The neighbors all saw it. People come down a ladder, a rope ladder. They barge into her house. They rough up her roommate, and they take her, and off they went and took her to this facility, probably at China Lake or something like that, and treated her very badly. And they kept showing her pictures of graves and saying, "Have you ever seen this before?" She basically said, I don't know what the bleep you're talking about. And so they roughed her up a bit, and she got a black eye, and there were a lot of other details. And then she got brought back, and people saw it, and still she wasn't believed. And what she would do is she would, when in the daytime, when the helicopters would be over her house, she would, when they leave, she'd get in her car and follow them to where they were going, then take pictures of them landing in these facilities out in the middle of nowhere. Sierra Madre, that was the name of the town. Sierra Madre, famous Sierra Madre. Uh, so Lisa and I were friends. Leisha and I were friends, and I don't know if she's still with us or not. I talked to her a few years ago, and she didn't seem well. But I gave her all my artwork, all of it, everything, the full size aliens that I had done. I think I have pictures of these. Where are they? They were made for sightings. I know where they are. Just bear with me. And they were, I sculpted them. I did a sculpture of them, sculpted them. Boy, that's some good English there. The sculptures were done in clay on an armature. And then I made complex ultracal stone molds, which were quite heavy. Come on, I know I have pictures of them. There's a picture of me with them, kneel down. And of course, I can't find them. And so those were given to her as well. Well, here's one. This is actually from the night that sightings came to my house. And we went in the backyard because we had this huge backyard up in Granada Hills. It's quite large and just perfect and ideal for shooting. And this being, which is the tall gray, and the child actor met, and this creature actually walked and moved its hands and moved its fingers and its head and everything, because it's what we call a bunraku puppet, attached to another actor directly behind it, all in black, were a series of rods, and when the person moved, it moved, and they could flex. They had little rings on their fingers and these handles, and when they moved those, it moved the hands. In fact, these were used in the movie The Visit. If you haven't seen The Visit's on our channel under movies. And the film was done working with Tony Hooper, son of Toby Hooper, friends with both of them. And he did a fabulous job shooting and editing the film. And he did some of the visual effects for it, early CGI effects, but all the practical stuff with the abduction and the tools being used on the actor during the examination were done with these puppets, and they work quite well. I had built other such puppets for Whitley Strieber for the NBC confirmation special, a 2-hour special, which was a debauchery because they told us that they were going to be on our side. They weren't going to have skeptics. They weren't going to debunk, and they did all that anyway. And it just was awful the night that it premiered. A lot of broken hearts. I have so many pictures. It's crazy of artwork that I've done. I know that, let's see, maybe they're here. This is the full-size bust that I gave Whitley. Years ago. This was done, God, that was done around 98, right around in there. So that was really cool. I thought, I wish I had the molds to this stuff. I don't anymore. A lot of this stuff has been lost to time. Now, Whitley has that bust, and he doesn't know where it is now. Um, this one's pretty neat. These are very popular, and somewhere in X Files, um, there's these in the background because Chris Carter bought two of them off of me, and I didn't even know who he was until they asked me to work on X Files when it was first starting out. And he liked this gray very much. Okay, we're gonna do that. I'm still looking for the pictures. Wow. There's somewhere here. I promise you I'll find these things. When I'm not looking for them is when I find them the most. Well, here was one I was starting to work on, didn't finish it. Um, this was more recently. If you look at the feet, those are pretty accurate. If you've read the Reddit autopsy, that's in Whitley's The Fourth Mind. This is one of the things he used to look for with people. He'd ask them to describe the feet, and if they could describe the feet accurately, then he knew that they had. Well, he knew that he had seen the feet. The hands are pretty close too, but the thumbs really should be longer. The rib cage and all that is kind of Hollywood. So is the neck, but it's still kind of a neat sculpture. Those molds were long lost. So, but I'm going to try looking this way. No. I'm using the search function. Okay, come on. This is silly. We're just kind of hanging out here. There's no structure tonight. There we are. Career pictures. Yeah. Oh, here we go. This is some good stuff. I talked about the NBC confirmation. I don't know if you people have ever seen this show. It was a 2-hour special. It was on NBC. It was at prime time. And I had built these communion aliens, and they were also puppeted in a very similar fashion to the puppet I showed you. And that's a very young me with my very long hair and my VistaVision shirt on stage. There's some other really good pictures of this, of them in action somewhere here. All kinds of cool pictures unrelated to this subject. There was a movie called The End of the World with Christopher Lee. And what's really interesting about this film is that Spielberg used the image I'm about to show you in his 4-part series Encounters. And then in another show after that, I think on Netflix, also on Netflix, they also used it. So when you see this, you're going to say, oh, yeah, I remember that. Well, guess who that was? Me. The story is, and this was done in 1978, is that Christopher Lee, who's a very nice man, by the way. If you don't know who Christopher Lee is, then look him up. One of the most famous horror genre actors who ever lived, who did Dracula and Frankenstein, all these other things in England, in the UK with, oh God, I'm drawing a blank on the name of the studio, but it was great stuff. Anyway, I had done very elaborate makeup and I cast a life mask of him, and I made all these prosthetics. And when it came time to put the makeup on him, he called me up one night, and he was such a gentleman. He said, you know, Steve, with all Hammer Films, with all this work I did for Hammer Films and all those aliens and creatures and monsters I played, I just dreading having your beautiful prosthetics put on, and I hope you won't take it personally, but I really can't go through it again. And I said, oh, okay, fine. We'll come up with something else. And we did. And Charlie Band, the producer, executive producer, said, what do you have that we could use? Because he's supposed to look like an alien. And I had done this mask um, that looks very gray-like without the black eye covers. It's sort of a cross between Travis Walton and Barney and Betty Hill. Probably closer to Barney Betty Hill. Oh, thank you, George. Wow. There's the bell. Yeah, that bell right there. Thank you. Isn't that cool? For those of you who are Buddhists, don't know what that signifies. And so I ended up playing the alien at the very end when he walks into the portal and then he steps back out to look at them. That's when you're supposed to see what he looked like. And that was me. And I was in there. I did a lot of this kind of thing back in the 70s on Laser Blast and other films. I'm still trying to find the on set pictures. I did a number of busts that Whitley gave me permission to use, and I will be talking about the 3D printer in a minute. These were the busts that I used to make and sell, and Whitley signed these. And you notice that she has a lot of little wrinkles and stuff up close, and Whitley and I talked about this a lot because when I saw one that looked very much like his book cover, her face was very close to mine, and I saw age. And Whitley said, yes, she's very old. And a lot of them are very, very old. And I've since heard this in Susie Henson's books and other sources. Some of them are very ancient. And so I put in these real subtle age lines and wrinkles the way I felt it. It felt, I always liked this picture. But we are going to be making these again. I don't know if anybody's going to buy them, but they're, they did. They most certainly did. So looking through, still trying to find certain ones that are missing here. At least missing because I can't find them. You don't want to see anything from Fright Night. Huh, I wonder where those pictures went. So, very interesting here. So how are you guys? Anything exciting happening? Anything you'd like to share with me? Peace for all. In my dreams, the Greys were friendly, but the shadow people were not. The shadow people. I used to see this thing when I was younger. It was this dark, amorphous mass shape thing with red glowing eyes, and it would paralyze me and come really close to me, and I would just be in absolute terror, and then I'd wake up. Sound familiar to anyone? What is this? Oh, that's my friend Doug Jones in The Shape of Water. Okay. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The Wicker Man, absolutely. Lots of. Well, this might be interesting for you to see. It has black eyes, after all. Irish Gamer. Thank you, Irish Gamer. And I missed the name again. There was something under it. UFO hotspot, Boyle in Roscommon, Ireland. Seen few. Okay. Thank you very much. Anyway, going back to this guy. Some of you are over the right age, and I know plenty of you are in this group. Sorry. Um, yeah, I was contacted one day by the ad agency for McDonald's, and they said they had a new character and a new campaign they wanted to do, and it was called Mac Tonight, and they had a piece of artwork that showed this, and they said, "Can you make this as a big mask that someone can wear and the mouth will move and they can sing?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely." I got paid an enormous amount of money to do it. I also puppeteered the face along with my late wife and a gentleman named Bob Burns, who's notorious for collecting and owns the actual time machine from the first movie, which was the best movie. Uh, and this kept me in chips for quite a while. The Grays gave my dad a parting gift, his small cell lung cancer, completely gone. Wow. Whoa. No, it's a good idea, Tess. That's why your dad is still walking around, I hope, because they tend to think there's something wrong with you if you believe something like that. Anyway, so Mac Tonight, and these are the last two heads I ever made. Of course, the actor was Doug Jones, who did Pan's Labyrinth and uh, oh God, all kinds of stuff. A Shape of Water. He's worked with Del Toro a whole bunch. Um, I do have pictures of him somewhere. These are all pictures of Mac Tonight. Wow, that's when I was redoing it. I didn't know I had these. But somewhere here is a picture. Of course, oh, how could I forget Star Trek Discovery? He played the bridge alien, or not the bridge alien. I can't think of his name now. The main character, second only to the captain. Yeah, it did, Benno. It did. It did. I even worked with crazy people like this. He actually wasn't crazy. This actually, Oliver Reed was a lovely human being. We had a great time together working. And there I am. I mean, I was only 26, 27 years old. You see how beet red my eyes are? That's what Hollywood does to you. Has anyone dreamt about the whales or know the meaning? The whales. Huh. Well, what's interesting about that, Char, is that I had a lot of dreams about whales swimming in space, enormous whales. That would have been back in the 80s. Oh, Irish. Thank you. Thank you very much. So you are you living you're living in Ireland, correct? You're a native? My grandfather was from Ireland. Boy, was he. That's I'm half Irish, so I guess am I half Irish? No, not quite, because his wife, my grandmother, was Blackfoot Indian. So it's interesting mix. Anyway, or no, she was half Blackfoot Indian. Hey, I get confused with all that. But anyway, uh, yeah, I wish it was, but thank you. Um, so yeah, Oliver and I worked for like 2, 3 months on this film called Dr. Heckle, Mr. Hype, and I really got an education about Oliver Reed, another Hammer Films superstar, um, who was a very gracious human being. I loved working with him. He was a consummate professional, and yes, we drank a lot, and I had to drink with him because 2 o'clock he started drinking vodka, and I tried to. Um, I tried to just give myself orange juice till one day I was getting away with it for a while, and then he grabbed it and says, "Steve, let me see your drink." And then he just poured it in there, and so after that, it's like, "Oh hell, screw it!" And somehow we both did our job well, and that's all that mattered. But then he was trying to leave the honey wagon to go home and get some rest, he would grab me by my back, pull me back. So, where are you going? We're going out. And he took me out on Hollywood. And if you ever heard the expression, painted the town red, we painted it very, very red. So that was quite an experience, but I'll never forget it. And I definitely had a tear in my eye when I saw Gladiator because that was his last film. And he basically played himself in that. I hope you're not bored with all this. I didn't have anything planned, and I thought, well, you might get a kick out of seeing some of the things I did in film and how it related to this. And I go up here. I have some other things that I can show you that are very interesting. This is one you'll get a kick out of. I've known Adam Savage for a while, and that Star Child you're seeing there from 2001, it's both his favorite movie and mine. And he got one of my Moon Watchers, but he also got one of these. And I still have the molds for these, and I still own one, and I'm not losing track of that. But that's what that looked like when it wasn't being processed in the optical printer and wide angle lenses and the frosted bubble around it and stuff. And it's very accurate. Oh, no, he wasn't uppity at all. In fact, he only hung out with the crew. He didn't like the money people, and he wasn't impressed by famous actors, and he hung out with us guys, and he was a man of the people. So yeah, Adam did a show about this and how I made it and all that kind of stuff. It was fun. He also did one on Moonwatcher, and I don't think I have a picture of that, but I might. Here this picture here you can see Moonwatcher. It's kind of a dark shot. You can see it down below. And Hal up there. That's at my studio. And the Moonwatcher is accurate, and the actor that played the Australopithecus that threw the bone up into the air and did all those main scenes, Dan Rector, came to our studio, and he actually asked to wear this. And it was amazing because here he is 80 years old, and Gary Lockwood's there, who played Frank Poole, because Gary and I, he was friends, and he'd come to our studio. Mary and I hung out with him a whole bunch. He took us to dinner, all kinds of stuff. He was a lot of fun. But Dan was there, and they're both getting on. But Dan, said, "Can I put that on?" And it was just, I have pictures of it somewhere. It's amazing, the look on my face. Mary was snapping away as he was fitting the head on, because it's the first time he wore it in 50 something years. So it was, that was great. That was really, really cool to be able to do that. Okay. I think I've shown enough of that stuff for now. I think. We're going to have, I'm hoping, another art exhibit in later this year. Is that right, Mary? Like in September, November, something like that. Because I'm doing a great deal more art. Oh, here we are. That's one of the small grays and one of my paintings in the background. I couldn't tell you who has this painting. I know someone has it. But that was, you can see I'm wearing a comm badge from Next Generation. And that's a 3.5 foot tall worker gray. Yeah, it's like Mary saying, it's like Fred. We have Fred at the studio, and I wanted to do this one, which I gave away to Alicia. It was posable. I had another one that was a puppet, and it's long since rotted away because it's rubber, foam rubber, and so I did this one in all paper mache with lovely Earl. It's all paper mache. So you're 58 years old and you're wondering what they want from you. Okay, enough of the pictures. Mary will put me back up there. There you are. Well, I know what they want from me, and I think it goes for a lot of us. As a species, we're not doing very well. Worst of all, while we're harming ourselves and destroying ourselves, we're also destroying this little gem of a planet, and that will not be tolerated. I don't think humanity is important enough to kill a whole planet, all the life that lives here. Everything that lives and crawls is our brother and sister. And they have been working with us since very, very young, and in most cases before we're even born, through choice, to come here and try to fix this, or as Susie Henson calls it, an upgrade. We have to raise human consciousness. That's why we're doing this show. This is why I did the films I did about this subject. This is why I did all the appearances on television back during the 90s and working with Whitley and Roger Lear and so many other people. Now I'm working with some amazing people, uh, still gratefully, to raise consciousness, not just about the visitors, but about who we are. We're not just we're not just flesh and blood and a brain that in its entirety is our full being. It's long been established, for me anyway, the evidence stands for itself that we are not our bodies. There is solid evidence, solid proof, in my opinion, to say that we are more than our physical being. Absolutely. That's who we really are, the soul, the consciousness. There would not be a universe if it wasn't for consciousness. But the expression Whitley came up, we are lost among the stars, certainly is true. And I'm watching what's going on right now. And you know what I mean. I'm not going to name names or say things because it's very negative. It's bad enough they keep penetrating our little bubbles. But it can't go on. It cannot go on. And if it does go on, then everything's going to be lost. That's what they want with you, in my opinion. They want you to talk about it. They want you to help people. They want you to raise consciousness in any way you can, whether it be through art, or you write a book, or you talk in a group, or you hook up with like-minded people and say, what can we do to move this along? Um, and that's what we're doing. I mean, I've touched myself personally so many lives of people who absolutely had no acceptance of the subject matter who now do. What did Benno say, Mary? Put it back. Oh, come on. It's not moving that fast, is it? How come there's so many people listening to me babble on the eve of a holiday weekend? I'm flattered. Truly, I'm flattered. You people are absolutely beautiful, and I love you. We need to all support one another. True. I feel they are coming to be with us in more obvious way. Frequency is changing. Yes, I hear that all the time. Frequency. You know, the people that are doing all the damage to the world, harming our environment, harming innocent people, just trying to have health care and stay alive and get through their lives. Um, it just can't be allowed to continue any longer. And they are a very low frequency. Mary has another name for it. It's slipping me right now. So entropy. Yes. They have high entropy, whereas we have low empathy. I'm not as tired as I usually am when I do these shows. I don't know why. I must be sleeping better at night, which worries me because the minute I finally start to catch up after an incident like a week ago today, they come back. But whatever it is they're doing, it's very important. And sometimes I do remember. And when I do remember, it's always been to help, to benefit me. I mean, you just saw the gentleman here that talked about his dad and his lung cancer. I've heard of people who had irreversible polio effects from having polio that were completely cured, and so on and so forth. But beyond even being helped physically, spiritually, they do that too. The Greys have been given a very bad rap. You have to wonder where that comes from. I know well where it comes from. Our own people. But hey, Jim, there you are. You see all those animals? He has all those animals. Oh, look at them. Oh, those are amazing. And more. He's got sheep and everything. He lives in a beautiful place in the woods with the farm, and he does incredible jewelry. Going back to what I was talking about, it just, they have humor. They have a sense of humor. They have a sense of caring. Everything that so many people uh, that are expressing nightmarish, horrible experiences with them, I have to question if they were really having those experiences with Grays or they were having experience with something else, maybe even uh, done by our own people. It's just a thought. Can you guys send some good juju for me, please? Yes, of course we can, flea market. I haven't seen orbs for a month. I'm feeling so disconnected. Well, we haven't seen them either. We were seeing a lot of them back there a few weeks ago in the house and at night. So, how about the rest of you? Are you seeing? And we will send good juju, of course. How about you guys? Have you seen orbs? I've been working pretty hard on the shows. Um, I've lost track of how many we have right now. I know we have Jim Lowe, which you don't want to miss this Friday because we tear it up. We really go for it. This whole business with Robert Salas and the EMP machine parked outside a functional current nuclear facility vital to the protection of this country. Uh, they were frying every resistor and transistor and and that time I don't know if they had integrated chips, but the whole facility had been fried. And when they told the public that, oh no, we were just doing special tests, we were testing, to see how our facilities would survive an EMP, they won't survive it. Nothing electronic survives it, and it's a huge machine, and it would have to be built outside the building, the bunker, the silo, and they would have seen it. And they don't hover and they don't glow red. But we get into that, so you don't want to miss that. Then, of course, we have Deb Cobble, we have CJ, we have Barbara Lamb. Yes, Barbara Lamb. How could I forget about it? These are all shows that I've recorded that I'm editing, and Barbara was amazing. She's still doing regressions. She's still working. She's really with it, and we had a great hour or so conversation. And I just let her talk. And the stuff that she talked about a few years ago, one would have think she was whacked for. And no, she's not. I've heard it so much. I know she's telling the truth. And she talks about 3 different types of hybrids. She talks about different grays. We even talked about the praying mantises. And she has a great deal of knowledge on it. It was just amazing to let her talk and just because she's calling on years and years of experience. I met her back in the 90s in Moore Park. when they used to have great MUFON events there. And she's a very sweet lady, and so I'm really, really glad to have her. Some shows that I'm planning up ahead that should be a lot of fun is to have Philip Mantle and Dr. Irena Scott. I am staying in touch with them. We email each other and chat weekly that way. Philip's been sharing all kinds of amazing things with me. And they're wonderful human beings, and they've worked so hard investigating this subject matter. Half siblings. That's a that's a very interesting question because it could be. It could be. I don't know. I was shown a child that was supposedly came from someone I knew that was in the support group. It was a combination of her egg and my sperm, and it made a hybrid child. And I saw it, and I did a drawing of it. I think I've showed it to you guys a million times, so I'm not going to show it again, not unless you want to see it. And it was just this sort of amazing moment. One of these the little grays went behind a partition and pulled out this little child with the red hair and blue eyes, big blue eyes. Um, so anything's possible out there. That's for sure. Siblings, that would suggest that maybe there were two of us, and or another, and maybe my mom had a miscarriage, and that's what she thought, and maybe they actually took the child, and I think that's what you mean, right, Tess? It's interesting. I think this has been discussed. Huh. So, well, it's we got we got 10 minutes left. If there's anything you'd like to ask me or anything you'd like to talk about and share with us, this would be a good time. You know what's going on. You know all the shows that are coming, and eventually, Jeff Selver is going to come down here. He's going to come down here from Canada on his own dime and sit in front of our camera and tell his story, and that's really going to be something. So we have a lot of material to keep the channel busy. Everybody's been really good about contributing to it. Um, I am working another film because I haven't done one in a while. But they take a long time to do. I mean, they're very involved doing an all CGI film. I'd like to do something live action up the road, but those cost actually more money to do. But I'm doing one that's called The Breath in the Trees, because I used to climb up to the top of these huge trees in the middle of a forest and spend the whole day there hugging the tree, literally just keep from falling out of it while the wind blew me back and forth, and I observed everything in the sky and down below and in front of me, and it was the most amazing experience. But there's something more to it. There's a reason that that happened, the reason I did that, because I was sharing that experience with somebody else. And that film I'm slowly working on. Oh, well, thank you, Jim. Well, that also brings me to, I tell you what, if you do that, I'm going to send you something. I'll show you. Because Mary just got us the biggest resin printer, I believe it's the biggest printer that Ego makes, the Jupiter, and it will print good size uh, objects. And so I'm going to do a series of different beings from this experience and make them available. And they're printed with resin, so they're all smooth. They don't have the ripples. It looks, I sculpt them, and it's from the sculpture I do, it prints them, and they're perfectly exact to the sculpture. No ripples or lines, so they're beautiful. Steve, what is your meditation protocol that you do if you well, protocol? Hmm. I sit in a lotus position in the morning with Mary, and I close my eyes, and She rings in the Buddha, the bells, and we turn our monkey mind off. We focus on our body and our breathing. A lot of times we'll start with our toes and work to our ankles and up to our knees and to our thighs and so on and so forth. That focus of moving through your body and the deep breathing and being aware of that clears the mind. And it's at that point that, for me, I start seeing images and I have communications. Um, but that's pretty much what we do. And sometimes I'll just be sitting on a chair out into the stars and close my eyes and do the same thing, and then ask to see an orb or ask to see them. And the first time we ever tried it, they showed up. We haven't been able to do that again because it has been cloudy every single night, especially this time of year. June gloom, which becomes July gloom. So, but anyway, this 3D printer is really something. I have had a smaller one, and it allowed me to do a series of smaller sculptures, and I put them in shadow boxes. But now I can print out a whole gray figure about that big, maybe a little bit bigger, or a praying mantis, or just do a head bust. So that's why I'm going to do communion busts again. I can do the craft, and I'm also going to do a series of creatures from the Outer Limits, which was one of my favorite TV shows. My medium is now digital. I have been sculpting for all my life for Hollywood, making monsters and aliens in clay and making big, heavy molds and mess and painting them and making them out of foam, rubber, silicone, polyurethane foam, you name it. I've done it all. Fiberglass underskulls, mechanics, servos to make them move. And it's just so nice. I think I can show you a picture of my 6-finger sculpture I did in Blender. And this is not with computer assist. Lynn, thank you so much. The computer is just a tool. You have to know how to sculpt. You have to know how to use those tools. Thank you very much, Lynn. Thank you. Let's see. I think there's a picture of it on here somewhere. Somewhere. Probably be in my downloads. Nope, that's not what I want. There we go. I hope it's there. No, it's not there. It's because it's on the other computer, which just figures. Well, I probably can still get to it. Come on, there, it's over here. I know it is. There we are. Now, how do I get to this computer? I'll tell you what. I'm going to send myself an email. I know I'm far away from the microphone. There we go. I'm going to add this. Downloads and sound effects are important. And then open. And then I'm going to send that to myself, and then I can grab it and put it up here. But you can use a thing called ZBrush. I already had Blender, so I didn't get ZBrush because I found that Blender worked just as well. There it is. Download. Now I'll go on the downloads, and then I go back over here. Now, what you're going to see is just gray. It's not painted or anything because I don't need it to be. I just need the shape. I turn it into an STL file, which goes into the printer, and the printer prints exactly what you see. Oh, that's the editor. Where is StreamYard? There it is. Okay. Finally. There we go. Boom. Aren't I quick? Here we go. As we come to the top of the hour, what will you all like to see sculpted and printed? That's a good question. Okay, so that's fully 3D. It has skin texture and stuff. You can't see it. This is just a snapshot I took. And I had since then I've made the shoulders and the collar he had around his neck and everything else. But that's all done in what I call digital clay. And I can print that just about any size I want. If I print it in two sections, I can make it big enough to wear, and I could literally make a mask out of it. But the nice thing is with this resin material, these sculptures, unlike the rubber masks, will last very, very long time, if not forever, whatever that is. So, if you have never seen the Outer Limits TV show, it's one of the best science fiction programs ever made, and it's relevant. The messages in it today are relevant. This was back in 61, and the people that were writing these stories were trying to do the very same thing we're trying to do. Save us from ourselves. So, that's what I'm doing. And so it's just wonderful that I don't have to work with clay anymore. I mean, yeah, it's nice to get hands on. I do that with a canvas. But when you work in clay, I thought I'd never stop working in clay. By the time I hit 70 years old, I started to think, you know what, this is really tiring, really messy. And then you got this life cast of a human head, which is really heavy, and you're sculpting, you know, 25 pounds of clay on it. Then you have to move that thing around, that sculpture, and then make a mold on it. And if you can make a fiberglass mold be very light, but the thing is, rubber doesn't absorb well into it at all. And so I was making these stone molds, which is how we used to do things. And then they would absorb the moisture out of latex. You would pour it in the mold, it would build up a thickness. So you got this nice mask. And I have done tons of masks in my day. I used to work for Don Post Studios. Was one of my first jobs I ever had. And it was great. It was exciting, but then you're trying to lift a mold that's 150 pounds, maybe more, and you got to open it up and dig out all the clay and clean the whole mold out. Then struggle with this big mold, put it back together, put straps around it, fill it with 5 gallons of rubber. Then you have to lift that up and dump that out back in. And I just reached a point where I said, I can't do this anymore. But sculpting in the computer and being able to print the way I can. Yeah, we did. I was surprised. We got some good money for them because there's collectors out there. There's people who know my career and they collect monster masks and they collect uh, all kinds of stuff, props from movies, which I've also made. And they know my past and my career and all the movies I worked on. And so those things have real value to them. And so they've been coming up to the studio and we're slowly emptying the place out. We're keeping some of the important stuff, like my big enterprise model, which I built all from scratch. So, but that's why I'm working digitally when I sculpt now. And then the printer prints it out. It's pretty mess free, and you got this nice sculpture in your hand, and you can paint it and mount it, and there you go. Yeah. Yeah, at first it was like, can I really do this? This is kind of odd, but it was the same thing, I start with a sphere, and I add a lot of polygons to it, and I take it into sculpting, and I start pulling and tugging and shaping and just like you do with clay, and there it is. You got a gray alien, which is something I'm going to do. So I will be offering those and a whole bunch more because I can. I don't know if they'll sell or not. I don't care. But, if somebody wants them and they appreciate them and it adds something to their life to have objects like that in their possession in their home, then I'm happy to sell them to them. So I have to do whatever I can do to help bring, yes, and the shadow boxes, which are these boxes that have depth to them, and there will be like a whole little scene. Like I was thinking of doing one of Barney and Betty Hill standing there with the craft over and the little grays looking out the window at them, and they're 3D because I have PLA printer. I also have a laser cutter, and so I can make everything and then make this little miniature world inside this box that's about this big by that big. I've done several, uh, and when the collectors came over, they wanted them. They took them off my wall. Now I don't even own them anymore. I can make more, but they wanted them that quickly. So yeah, I'm going to be doing that as well. Um, the money helps because I don't know what's ahead. I don't. I don't know what the state of my affairs is going to be as of recent events in this country. So the more I can do to bring a little income, uh, it might become really needed. What was that last comment, Mary? Oh, okay. So, but I'll never ask you for money and say you should buy this. That's entirely up to you. But I like making the stuff, and it's there, and so you can get it if you like. It's 6:02, and you have a communion. I have your communion comic book. Oh wow, where'd you find that? In which issue? That comic was put out by Caliber Comics, and that's how I met Whitley because he was involved in that, and that's he called me one night, and it was about doing art for it. So that's really cool that you have that. They're still out there. Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna go have some dinner, and I just want to say you're so appreciated. You're the people the world really needs. Kind, loving, compassionate. It's what we need. Thank you for being who you are, and know that we love you, and we will see you again very soon.